Hello, sports fans, and welcome to the Scott Sports 101 Browns NFL early games post game show and late games update show. We'll call it since we didn't get to do a pregame show this time out, but we will next week for the wild card games. Uh, and we got a lot of action to go over, but first, here is today's Scott Sports 101 Week 18 NFL trivia question, and it's a Bengals trivia question who the Browns played today, and did not come out on top, and it was, uh, here it is. What QB led the Cincinnati Bengals to Super Bowl 16? I will have the answer later in the podcast. Well, the Browns, it was not a good day for them today, as they rested some of their stars, was a smart thing to do, but they come up short as they fall to the Cincinnati Bengals 31 to 14 at Paycor Stadium in Cincinnati. So it was just not a good day for the Browns today, and uh, and mostly meaningless loss to the Bengals in the books. The Browns could turn their attention to preparing for their first playoff game in 3 years. Uh, Cleveland coach Kevin Stefanski rested most of his starters Sunday in a 1-14 loss to the Cincinnati Bengals today, as I just said. The Browns will play the AFC South champion Houston Texans in the wild card round next weekend. Uh, Locked in as the number 5 seed in the AFC, Cleveland, who now falls to 11-6. I was hoping for 12-5, but that, of course, as you know, did not work out. All things considered. With all things, I would have liked that, but because that would have been the first time that we would have done that, of been 12-5. So, uh, and so, uh, was content to play out of the regular season with backups before its second postseason appearance in the last 21 seasons. This is what you work for. Browns defensive end uh, Ogbo Okor Okor Okaramo said, "These are the days you dream about. Feels good to put ourselves in position to win the big one." Quarterback Joe Flacco, star defensive end Myles Garrett, receiver Amari Cooper, cornerback Denzel Ward were among the Brown starters who sat out today's game. When you look at these games, it's about what's best for your football team, Stefanski said. I knew what this game was, a great opportunity for our young guys to get some reps. The Bengals were more motivated. Jake Browning threw three touchdown passes, and Joe Mixon rushed for a season high 111 yards and a score, reaching a couple milestones along the way. The Bengals led 24 to nothing at halftime. Browns quarterback Jeff Driscoll signed December 29th from Arizona's practice squad, didn't fare well against Cincinnati's defensive regulars until the fourth quarter when he threw two touchdown passes to David Bell. The Bengals had a difficult season. Franchise quarterback Joe Burrow wasn't a at full strength to start the season and suffered a season-ending wrist injury in his 10th game. Other key players missed chunks of time. I thought our guys handled it professionally and finished it the right way, Cincinnati coach Zach Taylor said. Cincinnati, who is now 9-8, all the AFC North teams are over 500, finished above 500 for the third straight season, and the AFC North became the first division since the 1970 merger to have all its teams finish above 500. The Bengals avoided going winless against divisional foes. Going 1-5 in the division is no way to shape or form or acceptable to us, Taylor said. Uh, Mixon's 1-yard rushing TD in the first quarter was his ninth of the season and his 49th of his career, moving him to number 2 on the Bengals all-time list behind Pete Johnson's 64. Mixon also finished with 1,034 yards receiving, his fourth time in 7 seasons, topping the 1,000-yard mark. And Browning finished 4-3 as the Bengals starter, passing for 156 yards against Cleveland before being relieved by A.J. McCarron after 3 quarters. Andrew Andrei Losavez caught 2 touchdown passes. Driscoll had 166 yards passing, 111th in fourth quarter, and 2 interceptions. Stefanski said he hadn't determined who would back up Flacco against the Texans. Browns defensive tackle Shelby Harris suffered a shin injury in the second quarter and did not return. Stefanski said Harris will be okay. Linebacker Mohamed Diabate left with a thumb injury in the second half. Running back Pierre Strong Jr. went out with a back injury, and wide receiver Cedric Tillman was evaluated for a head injury. Hopefully, we'll have him for next week's wild card game because he is a vital part of the Browns' offense. This is the first time since 1988 that both Browns and Bengals finished above 500 in the same season. The Bengals went to the Super Bowl that season, and the Browns lost in the wild card round. Bengals defensive end Trey Hendrickson was accredited with a half sack on Driscoll, which gave him 17, second most in the league, and 2 behind T.J. Watt of the Steelers. Well, up next, the Browns have hopes of making a playoff run behind Red Hot Flacco, a former Super Bowl MVP who salvaged their season after the team brought him off the street in November. Cleveland suffered a series of major injuries this season, including to quarterback Deshaun Watson and star running back Nick Chubb. But the Browns have the league's top-ranked defense, and Flacco made their offense dangerous with his deep passing ability. So hopefully we'll get the one against Houston next week in the wild card. And so we shall see on that. But the off season awaits the Cincinnati Bengals, but they do get the game balls. So, and it was Jake Browning, 18 of 24 carries and attempts, 156 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Joe Mixon, 111 yards, 14 attempts, 1 touchdown, and Alan, I think it's Andrea Losaves, 5 receptions, 36 yards, 2 touchdowns. And for the Browns today, Jeff Driscoll, 13 of 26 carries and attempts, 166 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Pierre Strong Jr., 14 attempts, 65 yards. David Bell, 4 receptions, 68 yards, 2 touchdowns. So, but the Browns, this loss was meaningless because it didn't mean anything. So this is one of those losses that did not mean anything. And so we'll get to all the scores in just a moment. I took the Browns and lost, and so did my brother-in-law took the Bengals and he won on that one. And we'll get to all the scores in just a moment. We'll get to all the early game scores and we'll update on the late game scores. And we'll do picks of the week as well, and I'll let you know what's. But first, here is with time to now to reveal the answer to today's Scott Sports 101 Week 18 NFL trivia question. It's a Bengals question. It was the Browns' opponent today. What QB led the Cincinnati Bengals to Super Bowl 16, if you said Ken Anderson, you are correct. In 1981, Anderson was named NFL's most valuable player and set Super Bowl records for most passes conducted, 25 and highest, completed 25 and highest completion percentage, 73.5. I will have another trivia question on my next podcast, which will be one of my regular podcasts this week. So stay tuned for that. Uh, right now, we are going to go over all of the scores right now, all the early game scores. I already told you the Browns lost to the Bengals 31-14. The uh, the Tennessee Titans beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 28-20, and that means that Houston will be playing host to the Cleveland Browns uh, for that game, for that wild card game next week. Uh, the uh, the New York Jets beat the New England Patriots 17-3, and so the Jets end up going to 6-11 on the season. So that helped them out, and and the New Orleans Saints all over the Atlanta Falcons, 48-17. So for the Falcons, their season comes to an end. Their off season awaits them. The Bucks shut out the Panthers 9-0. And the Panthers' worst season finally comes to an end. And this has been Carolina's worst season ever, to say the least. And that's all the late games that we had. Oh, there was one more late game. I'm sorry, I missed one. The Minnesota Vikings beat the Detroit Lions beat the Minnesota Vikings 30-20. And so they ended 12-5, and Minnesota, their offseason awaits them. So, yeah, a lot of teams are not going to the playoffs. Their season ended today. And right now, I'm going to give you the update on the late games. The Philadelphia and the Giants are at the halftime. Philadelphia is down 24-0 to the Giants right now. That's a shocker. And boy, that is a shocker, that's for sure. Well, Philadelphia better have some magic, but they're already in the playoffs anyway, so probably gonna be a meaningless loss for them anyway. But the San Francisco 49ers are up on the New York Giants 20-7 right now in the third quarter, but 13:21 left to go in the third. And it's a first and 10 at the San Francisco 49ers. Rams have at the San Francisco 49. The Rams have the ball. At halftime, the Dallas Cowboys are up on the Washington Commanders 21-10. And so, as I go back up, the Seattle Seahawks are in the third quarter, just getting underway, and it's 13-6 Seattle over Arizona. And Seattle's about to kick off. At halftime, the Las Vegas Raiders are up on the Denver Broncos 17-7. The Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field are up on Chicago 14-6, and the Kansas City Chiefs at halftime. And there's in the third quarter with that game, Chicago Green Bay. Third quarter, 4:54 to go. First and 10 at the Green Bay 20. Packers have the ball. And at halftime, the Kansas City Chiefs are up on the LA Chargers 10-6. And as you know, I took Baltimore and lost last night. Took Houston and won. So my brother Eric Hoyle, he took the Falcons and lost. I took New Orleans and won. We both took Detroit, Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, and New England. And we both took Seattle, Green Bay, the Chargers. Actually, he took the Jets and lost. And won. I took New England. I lost on that one. We both took Seattle, Green Bay, the Chargers, Philadelphia, and Las Vegas. We both took the 49ers, Dallas, and we both took Miami. So we'll see how this pans out, but we'll see if I can come away with the win in the picks this week. But I really think the Browns are going to go far. I'm hoping you've let me know how far you think the Browns are going to go in the playoffs. because Flacco will be starting next week, and so a lot of playoff implications. But for the Rams, it's a must-win today. And New Orleans didn't. They got their must-win earlier today, and for the I think that's for Green Bay, it's a must-win as well. So because most of the teams have already made the playoffs, so and for the Raiders, it's a win if they want to make the playoffs. So we'll see. Uh, but the Browns do lose a meaningless one. It didn't mean nothing, 31-14. So hopefully the Browns they can get past Houston and get start to make their playoff and Super Bowl run. I don't want to jinx anything though, and Browns fans don't either. Well, that's just about going to wrap it up for the Scott Sports 101 Browns NFL early games, post game show, and late games update show. I'll be back with the late games, post game show, Sunday Night Football pregame show once the game, all the late games are concluded. But until then, always remember be a team player each and every day and every way possible. So long, everybody. 3, 2, 1. I'm done.